Good morning and welcome to another edition of the Daily Fix. I am your usual host and presenter, Advocate Tulo Hoyani. This Monday morning, I want to give you an analysis or a breakdown of how 636, Docket 3636 is a manifest fabrication. I will give you three examples or three pieces of evidence, and shaky evidence at that, in which I will indicate on which the prosecution relies. I will give you three incidents or pieces of information on which the prosecution relies for the conviction of the accused persons before the Pretoria High Court. Let us start first at the Khumalo House on the 26th of October 2014. And let's just talk about the issue of the identification of the so-called intruders. None of the people in the house could definitively say what the intruders looked like. In other words, not a sketch, not an identikit, came out of whatever they could have seen or could not have seen. So none of them could come out with a clear description of what the intruders looked like. None of them. And there were about 7 people in that house. Not a single one could come up with any form of identification. The only evidence that we have there is supposedly that one of them had dreadlocks. That is all that we have from the people in the house. And you recall that it was as a result of those dreadlocks that one unfortunate Zamuko Lembata was then arrested because allegedly he fitted that profile because he had dreadlocks. And one just wonders how many people in South Africa have got dreadlocks. So that was one of the reasons why Zamuko Lembata was arrested, because he was dark in complexion and had dreadlocks. That was not good enough. That is why it landed, that kind of description landed Zamuko Lembata in jail or arrested. And that is what the prosecution was, the investigators and the prosecution were relying upon. At the Khumalo House on the same day, one Thabang Makeleni is supposed to have spotted a gold tooth on one of the intruders. Remember, this is something that happens suddenly. Sensor gets shot in the house, people come running out of the house. It is at about 8:30 in the evening and it is dark, and outside there are no lights. But this particular individual, Thabang Makeleni, says he spotted a gold tooth in one of the attacker's mouths. How strange that can be. How could he have possibly, spotted a gold tooth under those circumstances, and yet could not give a definitive, description of those people? So that's another shaky piece of evidence for identification purposes that the prosecution seeks to rely upon. Conveniently also, you'll see that Thabang Makeleni's evidence has got no corroboration, or in any or the statement that he made, will not stand in court. Remember, Thabang Makeleni is supposed to be deceased. So all we have is that naked statement whose veracity or truthfulness nobody can vouch for, and which cannot be tested under cross-examination by the defense. So that is the first shaky leg of evidence on which the prosecution relies. The second piece of evidence, moving away from the Kumalo house now, the second leg of that evidence is what transpired at the Basotho hostel on the 26th of October 2014. We have heard that evidence by Constable Zungu. Zungu says there was some kind of meeting or drinking session at the Basotho hostel. But in one word, that has been dismissed completely by Sifiso Zungu. Gwabeni. Gwabeni says he last saw Constable Zungu in 1998 and next saw him again in 2017, and denies every piece of evidence that Zungu has put before the Pretoria High Court. And this is crucial evidence because the prosecution is relying on this evidence to show that the accused knew something or participated or actually did the killing of Senzo MEYIWA, because on that day there was supposed to be a conversation with one of them mentioning that, whether one of them asking others whether they had heard of the death of Senzo MEYIWA, which death had not been made public at that time. He also arrived at a later stage and looked quite disturbed, presumably after they had shot Senzo MEYIWA. So all that happened at the Basotho hostel, as testified to by Constable Zungu, has literally been thrown under the bus by Sifiso Nduli. Gwabeni. They say Gwabeni, that's his clan name, and they say the right pronunciation is Gwabini. But I think in court they're also calling him Gwabeni, so pardon me if I go back to this Gwabeni all the time. So Gwabeni has, destroyed all that evidence which he was supposed to corroborate. You see, the prosecution brought Constable Zungu to testify about what had happened at the Basotho hostel on that night. And for corroboration, they were looking at Gwabeni to corroborate what Constable Zungu has said. Gwabeni simply refused to corroborate that which he has told the Pretoria High Court is a bunch of lies. So on that score, again, the prosecution case falls flat and is found wanting. Let us move on. Let us look at the evidence also of the first defense witness, Absalom Zungu. Absalom Zungu told the Pretoria High Court that he knew nothing about the death of Senzo MEYIWA and had never deposed to an affidavit allegedly commissioned by Gininda, in which affidavit he purportedly overheard or was told by one Mbungiseni Zungu about a conversation that had taken place between the accused persons relating to the death of Senzo MEYIWA. He has also denounced that affidavit as a forgery. And he has told the Pretoria High Court how on a number of occasions Gininda tried to convince him to come and falsely testify to implicate accused number 1 and 2 in the commission of this crime. So this is why I'm saying, on the basis of the prosecution case thus far, Docket 636 is a fabrication. Look at the evidence of Absalom Zungu. Look at the evidence of Kwabeni as it unfolds in the Pretoria High Court. And look at that shaky evidence around the Khumalo house about the identification of the accused persons, and tell me what you think. Docket 36, in my view, is a made-for-TV docket. It is a fictitious docket. Having said that, let me thank you for watching this video. Let me thank you for all the subscriptions, likes, and shares that I'm seeing. And have a wonderful start to the week. Thank you.